Welcome to ScriptSnap. Today, we're diving into the 2020 sci-fi thriller, Underwater. The story begins at Kepler 822, a high-tech drilling facility operated by Tian Industries at the bottom of the ocean. Mechanical engineer Norah Price is mid-routine when the lights flicker and a leak springs from the ceiling. Before she can even react, the walls give way. A massive pressure breach sends a wall of water crashing through the station. Norah sprints through the collapsing hallways, desperately shouting for others to head for the bulkhead. Only one colleague, Rodrigo Negenda, manages to reach her. They scramble to close the heavy blast doors to save the rest of the station, but the computer system fails. Under crushing pressure and with seconds to spare, Norah is forced to hotwire the mechanism. She manages to get the doors moving, but she hesitates. Two more crewmates are sprinting down the hall toward them. The breach is faster. Realizing they'll never make it, Norah is forced to make a gut-wrenching choice. She seals the doors, leaving the men behind to save the station. The resulting electrical surge knocks Norah and Rodrigo unconscious. They wake to a grim automated warning. The station is 70% compromised. While Rodrigo suspects an earthquake, strange, predatory noises echo from the darkness outside. With communications down, the pair heads for the escape pods. Their path is choked with debris, forcing them to crawl through the wreckage. Along the way, they find Paul Abel trapped under a pile of rubble. After a tense rescue, and Paul retrieving his lucky plush bunny, the trio navigates a narrow, claustrophobic crawl space, passing the remains of fallen crewmates before finally reaching the pod bay. There, they find Captain Lucien. He's the last man standing after the other pods were deployed. While Norah works to unjam the bay doors, Lucien sends Paul and Rodrigo to check the submersibles, but the news is bad. The transport ships are destroyed. The group eventually regroups in the control room, where they find biologist Emily Haversham and engineer Liam Smith. The situation is critical. Emily warns that the station's built-up energy is reaching a breaking point. A total meltdown is imminent. Isolated and out of options, Lucien proposes a desperate gamble. They must put on pressurized suits and walk 2 miles across the ocean floor to reach a neighboring facility, Roebuck 641. The crew is hesitant, paralyzed by the thought of the abyss. But when Liam plays a recording from the drill site, the sounds of a violent, unknown attack confirm their worst fears. Something is out there in the dark, and it's waiting for them. The situation turns even more bizarre when the temperature outside jumps 10 degrees, a physical impossibility in the deep ocean that leaves the crew unsettled. Realizing they are out of options, they commit to the trek to the Roebuck station. As they suit up, the tension is suffocating. Emily is terrified. She's never dived before, and no human has ever survived more than a few minutes on the ocean floor. Paul clings to his plush bunny for luck, while Rodrigo inspects the final 2 helmets. He hands the best one to Norah. Sensing the danger from the recordings, Liam and Paul arm themselves before heading out. They crowd into the elevator to reach the seafloor. Liam warns them that the exterior hatch is already shredded, and the pressure change will be violent. Just as the doors are about to open, Norah notices cracks spreading across Rodrigo's faceplate. She screams for Liam to stop, but it's too late. The ocean hits them like a freight train. Rodrigo's helmet implodes instantly, killing him in front of the group. There is no time to mourn. They scramble into a cargo lift to continue their descent. Norah is haunted by guilt, realizing Rodrigo likely knew his helmet was compromised and gave her the functional one on purpose. Captain Lucien's advice is cold and pragmatic. She needs to get used to loss if they're going to survive. Midway down, they intercept a distress signal from one of the escape pods. Hoping for survivors, Lucien sends Paul and Liam out into the abyss to investigate. Paul leaves his bunny with Emily for safekeeping. In the crushing dark, navigating unstable platforms, the men find the pod. It hasn't just crashed, it's imploded and is covered in a strange bioluminescent algae. Finding only a body, Lucien orders them back, but Paul's attention is caught by a translucent, liquefied shape clinging to the corpse. The creature suddenly springs to life and attacks. Liam manages to shoot the specimen, and they haul its carcass back into the lift for inspection. Emily, the biologist, is fascinated and horrified. She identifies talons and a feeding apparatus, but notes the creature has no eyes. As she theorizes about this new species, the power cuts. The elevator grinds to a halt. The predatory screeches return, echoing from the darkness outside the glass. Paul realizes the horrifying truth. The creature they killed was just a baby. Before they can react, a massive adult shadow looms at the window. At that exact moment, the Kepler station finally gives way and explodes. The elevator cables snap, sending the crew into a freefall toward the seafloor. They scramble to seal their helmets seconds before impact. They emerge into a nightmare. The ocean floor is a graveyard of falling debris from the explosion above. Liam is struck and pinned, but Lucien and Norah manage to drag him to a small intermediate station. The news is grim. Liam's oxygen scrubber is trashed. Desperate, Norah hotwires a control panel to call an automated mover. They board the vehicle and race through an access tunnel, the sound of claws scraping against the exterior following their every move. Their narrow escape is cut short when the tunnel floods, forcing them to abandon the mover. They continue on foot into the dark, only to find their path forward buried under tons of twisted metal and wreckage. As the smallest member of the group, Norah volunteers to scout a path through the wreckage. She discovers a narrow passage beneath the debris, tight, but passable. To ensure no one gets lost in the silt, Lucien tethers the crew together with safety wires. One by one, they squeeze through the jagged metal. Everyone makes it except Paul. His voice crackles over the radio, panicked, claiming something is watching him from the shadows. When he freezes, the crew begins hauling on his tether, desperately trying to pull him into the crawl space. They manage to drag him through, but the moment he removes his helmet to catch his breath, the wire jerks violently from the other side. Knowing his time is up, Paul hands his plush bunny to the group and seals his helmet one last time. The crew fights to hold on to him, but the strength of the abyss is too great. A creature rips him straight out of his suit and drags him into the dark. The survivors flee, reaching a remote communications hub. Lucien tries the radio, but there's nothing but static. Looking out at the mangled remains of the massive drill, a 6,000-ton feat of engineering, Liam asks how anything could possibly destroy it. Emily's voice is hollow as she answers. They dug too deep. They trespassed into a world that wasn't theirs, and now the ocean is taking it back. Norah can only agree. They were never meant to be here. The sound of cracking glass cuts their realization short. The room is failing, but Liam's suit is too damaged to survive the trek. He begs them to leave him behind, refusing to be the weight that sinks them all. They refuse. Together, they hoist Liam up and step back out onto the seafloor. They don't get far before a shadow begins circling them. They kill their lights, hoping to blend into the blackness. But it's useless. The creature strikes, snatching Liam and dragging him into a nearby cave. Seeing Liam's foot still visible at the entrance, Lucien dives in after him. He manages to pass a living, breathing Liam back to the girls, but when Lucien reaches for a dropped flare gun, the creature returns. It lunges, dragging Lucien and Norah, who is still tethered to him, deep into the cavern. They tumble onto a jagged, floating ledge. As Norah scrambles to find her footing, the creature looms over her, its mouth pressing against her faceplate. In a final act of command and sacrifice, Lucien lunges at the beast to drive it back. They fall together into the crushing depths. Knowing the pressure will kill them both if they stay connected, Lucien unhooks his tether. Norah can only watch as he drifts into the abyss and implodes. Norah drifts, drifting in and out of consciousness until her suit's alarms wake her. She's alone, her oxygen is failing, and her suit is shredded. She stumbles through the dark, eventually finding an airlock to the abandoned shepherd station. Inside, she finally breaks down, grieving for Lucien and the others, before stripping off her ruined gear. She tries to radio Emily, but the message won't go through. In an old locker belonging to Lucien, she finds a map of the site. Fueled by a sudden spark of hope, she finds an old model diving suit, grabs a flare gun, and heads back out into the wasteland. Following the markers toward the Roebuck station, she hears a frantic voice through the comms. It's Emily. Norah sprints toward her, but in the murky water, Emily mistakes the bulky old suit for a monster and flees. Norah tackles her, shouting her name until Emily calms down. Norah pulls her into a hug, telling her how proud she is that she kept Liam alive. With the Roebuck finally in sight, the three of them begin the final leg of their journey. They drag Liam across the silt, keeping their terror at bay with quiet, desperate conversation, praying the dark doesn't notice them one last time. As they approach the final stretch, Norah opens up to Emily about her fiancé, who was also Liam's best friend. He vanished on a solo diving mission, a loss that left Norah haunted by her own powerlessness. She tells Emily how much she admires their bond. In a place this dark, having someone to hold on to is everything. Finally, the glowing silhouette of the Roebuck station emerges from the silt. But as they enter the structure, their hearts sink. Dozens of the creatures are suspended from the ceiling in a state of hibernation. They kill their lights and attempt to ghost through the nursery, but the silence is shattered when Emily's oxygen alarm begins to blare. The nest erupts. A creature lunges, pinning Norah and beginning to swallow her whole. Thinking fast, Norah jams her flare gun into the beast's maw and fires, the blast tearing it apart and freeing her. She screams for Emily to take Liam and run for the airlock. As Norah reloads, she notices the remaining creatures aren't attacking. They are being lifted upward by something massive. She fires a flare into the distance, and the light reveals a nightmare beyond comprehension. The ancient, colossal titan Cthulhu has risen from the crust. The sheer scale of the godlike entity freezes Norah for a heartbeat. She turns to run, but a blow from the behemoth triggers an explosion that knocks her cold. Emily braves the chaos, dragging an unconscious Norah into the safety of the station. Norah's oxygen is gone and her helmet is jammed shut. Emily is forced to use a fire extinguisher to shatter the faceplate, allowing Norah to take her first breath of station air. They regroup in the control room, watching through the reinforced glass as the Titan and its swarm loom outside. The station is already flooding, and emergency bulkheads are sealing shut. Norah pulls up the station map and guides them through a labyrinth of rising water and slamming steel until they reach the pod bay. There are 3 pods, but Norah quickly realizes only 2 are functional. She keeps the truth to herself. She seals a semi-conscious Liam into the first pod, tucking Paul's plush rabbit beside him, and launches him. When it's Emily's turn, she sees the system failure light on the final pod and refuses to leave. With no time for an argument, Norah punches Emily, shoves her into the craft, and tells her it's going to be okay before jettisoning the pod. Alone in the terminal, Norah watches the radar. The creatures are swarming, closing in on the escape pods. Refusing to be a passive victim one last time, Norah realizes the station's core is a ticking time bomb. She bypasses the safety protocols and initiates a total nuclear overload. The roebuck vanishes in a blinding white flash. The explosion incinerates Norah, the Titan, and the swarm, clearing a path for the pods to reach the surface. In the aftermath, the truth is buried as deep as the station. News reports flash by, revealing that all information has been classified. The survivors are silenced, the surveillance footage is lost, and Tian Industries has already declined government assistance. They aren't interested in a rescue. They're already planning to go back down and keep drilling. If you want to see more sci-fi breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe to ScriptSnap. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and leave a like to support the channel. Thanks for watching.